Hello and welcome to Tarot with Tanya. This is 7 cards for 7 days, and we are looking at the week of Monday, October 14th through Sunday the 20th. And I will talk first about the astrology, some of the aspects going on this week, and we also have a full moon. And then we'll look at cards, and I am using the Wildwood deck, and then we'll finish with an oracle card from the Tree Keeper's Oracle. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome back if you've been here before, and if you are new, welcome for the first time. Please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. That would be lovely. So this week we start with the moon in Pisces on Monday, and then we end our week with the moon in Gemini. So Pisces, the dreamer, the very imaginative person, the artist, the poet, the musician, the one who is in touch with the collective unconscious. And then we're moving through Aries after that, and that's where we find our full moon this week. And then we go to Taurus, the earthy sign. So we move to that fire, Aries, and then earth, and then we end in air with Gemini, the twins, the communicators, the thinkers, the mental activity place. All right, so on Monday the 14th, we have the Sun squaring Mars and Venus opposing Uranus. Those are some tough aspects, I'm not going to lie. The squares, oppositions for some reasons tend to work better for me. I can find that balance point, but squares feel like a lot more tension. So when we have these two aspects, Sun square Mars and Venus opposing Neptune, it could give us some arrogance, or finding arrogance in other people's, maybe indiscretions, perhaps rash reactions. That's that square energy of Mars. It can be rash. Anger can come up with this. It can cause conflicts because of that. And we want to try to funnel our energy into projects that day. That's a much better use of that kind of energy. And we also want to watch out for impulsive spending. And that's kind of that Venus opposing Uranus. Venus likes to spend. Uranus has that compulsive, erratic, lightning bolt kind of energy to it, so you just kind of want to watch that. On Tuesday then, we get a much nicer aspect, and this time it's Venus, planet of love and beauty, harmony, trining Neptune, and Neptune is in Pisces, and that's the sign that it rules, so this could be very sweet and dreamy. It can be enchanting. We might fall in love with the idea of love. There's a kind of idealism. So this can be quite nice, great for a date or something like that. Very imaginative, visionary. But you also want to try to stay grounded, because you know that Neptune energy can leave us very ungrounded. Then on Thursday, we get that full moon in Aries. So, you know, Aries is ruled by Mars, and so we're back to that kind of combative energy potentially, but it also can be a great energy for getting things done, for loving the self, understanding the self, and, you know, of course, there's always the full moon lunacy. It does affect us. I mean, it affects our tides, affects our blood, and so forth. So, you know, just be aware of that, and that there, you know, could be a little volatility because it is in Aries. Otherwise, we have Venus sextiling Pluto, and sextiles are nice flows of energy too. And Venus is leaving Scorpio and moving into Sagittarius. So that can give us a kind of energy to eliminate activities that are no longer meaningful for us. Venus cares, and Pluto is transformative, so it can help us root out things that we don't care about anymore. We can find interesting ways to make money. Venus likes money. Venus likes to spend. Venus likes pretty things. And Pluto is, plutocracy. Pluto, god of the underworld, the riches, and so forth. So we might feel adventurous. We might find love overseas. That's where the Venus is going into Sagittarius, because it rules that international component, or with somebody who is international. So those are our aspects for the week. And then, of course, we've got the sun still in Libra at this point. Later in the month, it'll be moving over to Scorpio. So we're still in that balance and harmony place, and that fits with our cards as well today. We have two majors, we have two arrows, and two vessels, so that would be water with the vessels, and the arrows are air in this deck. And we also have two royal cards, so there is a lot of balance going on in these pairs. And we'll start on our Monday with number 12, which is typically seen as the Hanged Man or Hanged One. And here it's called the Mirror. And we had this, I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but very recently. And I remember talking about that moon, and there she is holding the full moon just a few days before we get our actual full moon this week. And the eyes are closed, so there's such a message about intuition and understanding things from an internal place. This speaks to the Arthurian legend about the lady in the lake, and this keeper of power in this Celtic mythology, and Arthur being sent out on the lake. I do think they burned his boat. This one isn't on fire, but there's a way of communicating, perhaps even through, the idea is the person's dead, but I feel like there's like a spiritual psychic communication going on there. So that's our Monday, which is interesting, but the moon is in Pisces, remember, so that fits very well with that. Tuesday, we switch energies and we need some rest. Here's the card, the Four of Arrows. Again, it would be swords in most decks. It's an air element, so it's a thinking. It's almost like we need that mental rest. We have the four arrows, not stabbing the person at all. None of them are really piercing the skin. There's one on top of the hand, but in general, there's no blood involved in this one. So it's like deep rest, letting at least the mental body take a rest. And the butterfly stands for transformation. So we transform when we can rest. We stay with the mental energy, and it gets fairly intense on our Wednesday with the Knight of Arrows, or the Knight of Swords. This one can be hasty. I like that they've made it this wonderful hawk here, because hawks are, they're not going to be into the drama. It's do what you've got to do. And so there's a mental, focus, very intense focus there, and getting things done, bringing in information, perhaps new ideas. So again, that's our Wednesday. And here is the second of our royal cards, the Knight, of course. And now we switch to a very different direction with the Page of Vessels. So the Page is a much softer, more feminine energy. The Knights are a masculine energy. The air is a double masculine. So here we get a double feminine, the Page and the water. That water element is feminine nature. This can be like a very sweet daughter, a young woman energy, or just a young feminine energy. It doesn't have to be gender determined. Obviously the flowing of the water, watching things go by, can be poetic and dreamy, and this is when we're into that full moon in Aries, so this can be a nice counterbalance to that. because the Aries would be masculine, though the full moon is feminine. And then this brings in kind of a sweet little feminine energy with that. And again, it can be a person or it can be within your own self. We get our only Earth card, though we have 2 10s this time, or 2 1s really. The other one's the 19, the Sun. That's going to end our week, but here we get that 10. And as you can see here, it's called home. We have that wonderful stone archway, and I've mentioned before, I absolutely love this sort of house. It's kind of like the house is built around the base of the tree instead of up in the branches. So it's very, very grounded, very protected, very connected to the natural world. And that's what this card tends to mean: a stable, happy home. A place that we feel good about. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical place. It can be within our own selves too. That's our Friday night, so maybe a good night to stay home and appreciate that home. When we get to our Saturday, we're with that second vessel. I mentioned that we had 2 this week, 2 of that water element, 2 cards of that water element. And this one is 7, and it is called Mourning, which I think is very interesting. Of course, we can look at the skull and we can think of death, but I don't think that's really the concept. It's not about physical death. All the 7s would be connected to the Chariot. And the Chariot is, to me, transformational, gathering up the energy, and because it's emotional, it's a kind of emotional energy, and maybe sometimes we need to sort of, take stock and let go. And that can be where mourning can come in to release some things. And here we do have these 7 vessels, as it says. And I don't know if you can see it, but on the skull there are ritual markings. So, this is about magic in a way too, and that internal magic. Again, releasing and I think when we do that, we can also go back to gratitude. What are we grateful for as well? Then we end our week, as I mentioned, with another 10. It's a 19. You add 9 to anything, and you come back to that same number. And in this case, it's a 1. This is almost the last card of the majors. So it's our second major this week. And there's just no real negative spin on this card. You've got the figure here with the incredible light in the heart, and it almost seems like there's a hole through the back where the light of the sun is coming through in this filtered, very human way. Though you also see this lovely landscape. Lots of beautiful flowers, and that white chalk horse that you will find in England. Again, this is all tied to the Celtic mythology. So horses represent a kind of freedom of spirit, a spontaneity, doing things by instinct. So this is really, really tapping in to the beautiful divine masculine energy. So that's a great day. Sunday, we have the sun. So all in all, a week of balance. Some mental energy, some earthy energy, some psychic, intuitive, emotional energy, and then we're anchored on each end. One very feminine major to start with our moon in Pisces, and then a masculine where we end with our moon in Gemini, and which is also a masculine sign. It's a soft masculine, I feel, but still a masculine because it's an air element. So the cards are lining up with our week very nicely. And then we will wrap up with the Tree Keeper's Oracle, and Keeper of Balance came, and I just thought how appropriate. These always echo in such a lovely way. So it's a number 7 as well, so another echo with our 7 of Vessels. Keeper of Balance. Nature thrives in balance. The Tree Keepers honored this truth and emulated it in their own lives. Are you feeling off balance right now? Great Libra question. Tempted to think in terms of too much and or not enough? Now is the time to restore the vitality of your own life tree with balance. Where are you spending your time and energy right now? What do you need? The means of restoring your balance aren't as important as recognizing and voicing your own need. I'm going to read that again. The means of restoring your balance aren't as important as recognize and voicing your own need. That seems really important. You are the keeper of your life tree. Be willing to honestly assess where you feel blocked, lopsided, hurt, or needy. Be vulnerable enough to admit it to yourself, then take action on behalf of your own precious self. And I think this is just such a great way to do that. We'll hit that excessive point kind of, Wednesday to Thursday with that full moon, maybe even to Friday. But there's so much here to support us in terms of these energies that will help us find that balance. So, beloveds, as always, I'm wishing you the best possible week. Let me know how it goes, please, if you have any requests. And again, I'll mention, please like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you again in 7 days. If you are interested in a personal reading, there's information at the end of the video and below in the description box. See you soon.